So thank you very much. My name is Maria Menshikova, and I'm associate professor of Universitas Mercatorum, digital university, online university in Italy. I also, in the framework of this project, of the COST project ECO4ALL, I am leader of working group number 3, and today I'm very happy to contribute also to the webinar of working group number 1. So hello everyone, thank you for the opportunity. Today, as you can see on the slide, I will discuss the topic about the role of people empowerment in supporting the transition towards a circular economy. So while the debate on circularity often focuses on technology, on innovation, on sustainable business models, my topic instead is related to the people that remain the center, enable the driver, in my opinion, the pillar of change related to the circular economy transition. So through a combination of literature review and some Italian case studies, I will show you how skills development, how stakeholder engagement can work together to accelerate circular economy implementation. Okay, so the second slide is focused on background and motivation of the study. So let me start with a paradox. Also, the circular economy has become a central pillar of sustainability policies worldwide, globally. Less than 9% of the global economy is currently circular. So why is progress still so slow? The literature globally increasingly suggests that the challenge is not only technological one and not only regulatory, so not only normative, not only legal one. So rather, organizations often lack the human capabilities, the human competences, and also approach to collaborative networks needed to implement circular solutions. So both the European Circular Economy Action Plan and also the Italian Green New Deal recognize that successful transition can depend also on people. So the competencies, mindset, ability to collaborate, and also organizational culture across different sectors, across different organizations and institutions. So this observation is the focus and the motivation of my research. So speaking about the research objective, this study is focused on understanding how people empowerment can contribute to circular economy transition. So firstly, we conceptualize people empowerment through two complementary dimensions. So the originality of this study is based on this factor. So the first one is intra-organizational skill development, which can concern the identification and development of competences needed to support circular strategies. And the second pillar is inter-organizational stakeholder engagement. So it's also inter-organizational relationships, collaborative relationships across value chain and across value networks. So from the methodological point of view, this study, as you can see, combines a systematic literature review of the literature and also an analysis of Italian circular economy best practices collected from a report that is called 100 Italian Circular Economy Stories Initiative. Speaking about the first pillar, so intra-organizational skill development, the literature identifies 4 major categories of competencies required for the circular economy. So firstly, strategic competencies include system thinking, ability to understand complex interdependencies. The second category, the second group is technical competences relate to circular product design, remanufacturing, repair, reverse logistics. The third group of the competences of the skills are also interpersonal competences, very important to develop also interorganizational relationships. So, for example, communication, collaboration, stakeholder management, and leadership. And finally, also a very important group is related to digital competences. Digital competences that can involve data analytics, digital platforms, Internet of Things applications, and also awareness about artificial intelligence. So an interesting finding from the study, for example, for WU that you can see on the slide of 2025 is that strategic competencies are considered the most important category, the most important group, even more important than technical skills. So I think it's very important to understand this point in order to also to develop furtherly the possibility to transform our businesses, our organization, our enterprises in a circular way. So this highlights the importance of adopting a systematic perspective. So not only important to develop technical skills, hard skills, also inside the educational systems, but very important also to concentrate our effort on the development of strategic, interpersonal, and more general digital skills of the workforce. So obviously there are some barriers to skills development, despite increasing recognition of these competences, of these skills. We can see that there's still no agreement regarding the ideal circular economy professional profile. So educational programs often remain disciplinary, while organizations increasingly require interdisciplinary competences from the workforce, from the human resources. Another challenge concerns the mismatch between educational provision and labor market needs. So very important to study the market, the needs of the organization, of modern organization in enterprises in order to adapt also the educational systems. So accessibility also remains problematic due to training costs and geographical inequalities. And the literature recommends stronger university and industry collaboration. So also in this case of intra-organizational skill development, we can see that very important also to develop stakeholder engagement. So also we are speaking about educational system, it's very important to involve also in the development of educational programs the industry and the possibility to satisfy the market needs already in the phase of organizational of educational program offer creation. So the second pillar instead focuses on stakeholder engagement. So in this case, we are speaking about inter-organizational relationships and stakeholder engagement. So according to recent studies and the literature that I have studied in this case, in this occasion, organization must move beyond traditional stakeholder management approaches and adopt what can be defined as circular stakeholder engagement. So this transformation requires three changes. First one, organization must extend the engagement to include a broader ecosystem of actors. So not only the collaboration between enterprises, between organizations in the same sector, but also we can include suppliers, customers, universities, startups, and public institutions. The second point is that they must expand discussion by explicitly integrated circular economy objectives into strategic conversation. The third point to be focused is the organization must also level up interaction, moving from reactive engagement toward collaboration, experimentation, and co-creation. So a proactive manner in order to involve better all type of stakeholder. So the key message is that circular value is generated collectively rather than individually by a single enterprise. So based on the literature that we can study, we can analyze, we propose an integrated framework that you can see on this slide. So the framework suggests that circular economy transition depends on the interaction between skill development, in inter-organizational level, and also stakeholder engagement, and so the creation, development of inter-organizational competences. So skills provide the internal capabilities necessary to implement circular solution, and stakeholder engagement provides instead access to external resources, knowledge, legitimacy, and innovation opportunities. So in this case, together, these two pillars can contribute to the development of a sustainability-oriented organizational culture, and people empowerment can become the mechanism that can connect organizational capabilities with circular economy outcomes. So speaking about Italian case studies to test these ideas, from the literature that we can analyze. We analyzed also several Italian circular economy success stories, basing on the report of 100 success stories in Italy. So the cases come from different sectors, obviously, including manufacturing, design, bioplastics, energy, recycling, industrial symbiosis, and so on. So rather than focusing on technological innovation alone, in this case, we examined these case studies from point of view how organization can develop competencies, skills, and build a stakeholder relationship to support circular transition. So the following slide will illustrate some examples, some insights from these cases. So the first case is Caimi Brevetti, is a leading Italian design company. This case demonstrates the importance of combining internal competencies and skills with external collaboration. So the company has developed strong internal research and development capabilities, and also integrates circularity directly into the design process inside the organization, thanks to this process of research and development activities. So products are conceived from the beginning to be fully recyclable and easy to disassemble. So at the same time, this combination of inter-organizational skills and inter-organizational development, so the company collaborates extensively with various actors like universities and research institutions. So this case illustrates how circular competencies can emerge through continuous interaction between organizational learning inside the organizational, so the knowledge management, organizational learning, and also external knowledge network that can help to develop more skills, more competences in this circular transition. So the second case is Eggplant, an innovative startup operating in the bioplastics water. So the company also very useful in order to develop innovative products and services inside the Eggplant. So Eggplant demonstrates that circular innovation often emerge at the intersection of multiple disciplines, interfunctional teams, and also collaborative ecosystems. So in order to conclude my presentation, I would like to show you these last slides. So several important findings can emerge from literature review and also some case studies from Italian context. So firstly, circular economy transition is fundamentally a socio-technical challenge. So we necessarily can consider the transition and transformation of human capital. Skills development and stakeholder engagement are complementary rather than the alternative strategies. So we must consider not only the development inside a single organization, but also the role and the need to collaborate to develop a very diffuse relationship in order to be successful and to transit be success toward circularity. Interdisciplinarity also emerged as a critical success factor across all the Italian case studies, and stakeholder engagement can evolve from compliance-oriented relationship toward collaborative learning and co-creation approach. So for educators, this means integrating circular economy principles across education curricula, educational study plans. For managers, it means investing in both competencies, skills, and also collaboration development, partnership, networks. And for policymakers, it means also supporting training initiatives and collaborative ecosystems in national and international level. So let me conclude with the central message of this presentation. So the circular economy, in my opinion, and on the basis of this study, is a people challenge. Technology and regulation are necessary, of course, but they are not sufficient. So organizations need people who possess the right competences and who can build productive relationship across stakeholder networks. And the Italian evidence strongly supports this idea that skills development and stakeholder engagement, so the creation of networks of districts, are mutually reinforcing dimension of people empowerment. So organizations that invest in both pillars are better positioned to create sustainability culture, organizational culture in state, inside the enterprise, foster innovation, and also successfully implement circular economy principles. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have some comments, questions, they are very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria, for your presentation. I don't know if anybody has a question now, because actually we discussed with Briskene Dionisi, she is here with us, that she will be the discussant for all the panels. So the idea was that she will intervene in the end. I know that your program, Maria, is quite tight, so no worries about that. But of course, if anyone would like to add something or to ask something or to make any observation, is welcome. If not, maybe we will continue. And thank you. And I will give the floor now to Jarmila Sebestova. Jarmila, I hope you can hear and see us in a good manner.
I hope so. Hello.
Yeah, wonderful. So Jarmila is a professor at Silesian University in Opava, and I have stopped her on the way to the railway station because the program is as it is for all of us in this time of year. May, June, September, October are, as we all know, very, very dense. But we will hear her presentation now, and I hope we will enjoy everything that Jarmila has to explain us from the experience that Czech Republic has in circular economy. So please, Jarmila, the floor is yours.
Thank you for invitation, and I will tell you something about our experience with circularity in the Czech Republic. First of all, I want to say that our country is still developing circularity approaches, supporting entrepreneurs to be more green and more ecological. But statistical data said that we are using more than 9% of EU average on materials. So we are not so saving country by the material use, and it's the reason why our government and universities and other stakeholders want to push our country into green future. So first of all, I will tell you shortly about our historical background. Because this historical background has more than more influence on our circularity transition because our country is more oriented on heavy industry, mining, automotive industry, and chemical production. So there are our historical roots which have an influence on this transition. And also after socialist era, our government focused just on economic growth, restoration from communist time, and not worry about the waste, about environmental protection. In our country, we have a special act on environment issues. It was renewed in 2020 because of EU regulations. And also we have to create some other players or add other players to contribute on green future. Especially in this industry, development in first phase was not caring about the waste, about some emissions, because the fee was very low. If I account from Czech crowns to euros, the companies paid just 20 euros per 1 ton of waste, industrial waste. So it was so cheap for international companies to move to the Czech Republic with their chemical companies or automotive companies because of this advantage. Also, there was the lack of some recycling hubs or other possibilities to make it circular. Nowadays, we move on and we set up a national policy that it's national policy on Circular Czechia 2040. And we plan that the decrease of material use and also the KPI for circular material is about 11% to use it again. Also, this act increase the fee for the waste, industrial waste. It's about 80 to 100 euro per ton of industrial waste. So it's the motivation for companies to change their mind and to use some innovative production. And also, finally, we are looking on return systems. It was so funny thing because during socialist era, we have this deposit system on glasses or something like that. When you buy milk or beer in glass, so this glass you pay, and after you return back, you will be returning your money back. So we had this system, but after revolution we close up because the policy was so friendly to not support environmental issues. So you see the background that we are developing from some historical roots. Also, we have two national acts, Waste Act and Act based on EU policy to create a green future in 2040. Also, we have some initiatives in regional level. because our republic, as you see on the picture, we have some metropolitan area. It's here around Prague. They have their special strategy. It called Prague Climate Plan, and they also want to increase circular activities in within this region, and this is a national initiative. Also, we have highlighted 3 regions: Moravian Silesian in the east, and Ústecký and Karlovy Vary region in opposite side. There are 3 regions which could use EU program Just Transition Fund, and those 3 regions suffer from carbon industry, and they have their special symbiosis and connected research to support regional bioeconomy, or use some circular modules due to using industrial waste or other possibility how and others. Also, they are thinking how to make some metallurgical product can be redirected back into production. So recycling iron, other materials to be used once more. Let's look to some case studies we have. We are proud of this project. It's called Circ Arena. It's our flagship to connect community, research, industry, and education. Circ Arena is in my region, and the point is to recycle ice hockey arena, to use more than 70% of these materials to prepare a new building for connecting, as I said, community, industry, universities to be using and bridges the gap with its academia and manufacturing. Also, to reduce some footprint of the material. This project started last year, so now there are some construction works in this place, and I have a small video. How does it look like? Maybe I'm not sure if you will hear the voice, but it's with subtitles. So let's.
V České republice vyprodukujeme ročně téměř 40 milionů tun odpadů, které se z větší části dají opětovně využít. Jinak se musíme vypořádat s velkým množstvím odpadů, které vzniká v průmyslu, a také se širokou variabilitou jejich vlastností. Žel, řada těchto vlastností je nám nebezpečná. Proto je smyslem projektu Circ Arena koncentrovat excelentní výzkumné pracovníky do nově vytvářeného výzkumně vývojového centra, které soustředíme v Třinci. Všem zájmem v tomto projektu je zejména se zabývat odpady spojených s průmyslovou produkcí a stavebních odpadů. To, co je důležité, je nalezení vhodných způsobů jejich valorizace, současně životního cyklu
Jednou z klíčových oblastí cirkadeny je oblast bioodpadu. Často jsou velmi opomíjeny, ale my chceme cirkadeny rozvíjet.
I don't know about the others, but I'm seeing only the link, nothing about the video.
Podporou projektu Cirkadena získáme excelentní infrastrukturu, která nemá.
Also in my side also.
Ale zároveň dosáhneme také zásadní transformaci.
Jarmila, we do not see the video in itself. We only see the link. I don't know why, but the screen freezes in this way, so we only see the link and we hear the voices in Czech, but we do not see the image. So maybe you try one more time. If not, maybe you let us know what's in the video.
I will try once more.
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
No worries. Just
yeah.
Maybe we can do it in a different way. Yeah, so now we see the screen, but we do not have the voices. Maybe we can enjoy the view and
Maybe we can take now a group picture.
Yeah.
Ready? Could you turn on the camera, please? Yeah. Thank you. For 2 minutes, turn on your camera.
Olesya, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, it's not
Your
necessary.
mic is
I just
turned off.
I just took the picture and one more because we have 2 slides of persons. One more second. Once again. And one more because we have 3 slides. Nice, thank you.
thank you. So Jarmila, do you want to try one more time to show us the video or?
I will try. Sorry.
No worries. If not, we can continue with the
Yeah,
presentation.
we could continue because within MS Teams is more easier.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I will share once more my slides. And as I said, you saw the voice of the video. It was about the politics of this project. So now, as I said, the construction work is in progress, and next year the arena will be working as living lab, and we are proud of this project in our region because it's connecting how to make it better and help entrepreneurs to be more circulative. Also, we in our regions we have some innovative non-profit organizations. One of them is INSIEN, is think tank about circular economics. Their main focus is to help to find out circular solutions and advising when you want to prepare some circular strategy in your business, or you need some data about data about circularity. So they have this statistical data. Our cooperation as a university is about cooperation with CIRA. It's also educational non-profit organization focusing on ESG reporting, on law development, or preparing data for logistics, and supporting enterprises to redesign their production. Also, we have in Prague the initiative Circle, which focuses on materials and reducing waste in a region of Prague. Also, in our region, we have regions. Also, we have reuse centers to support circulation of products you do not need but you want to share with others, and it's educational for our inhabitants to be more environmental. What is the challenge of our Czech Republic? So you see that we want to decrease material intensity. Also, we want to reduce the waste. You see, as an example, textile waste, that we produce more than 12 kilograms waste per capita annually. And our motivation is to reduce these numbers, and to support swaps, or how to use textile again in construction materials, or automotive in automotive industry, and so on. So we have so much work in our country to be more successful in circularity. We have some pioneers, as you see, Circ Arena, or some advisory non-profit organizations, to be able to reach KPIs in 2040, as we have in our strategic plan. Also, we want to modernize regulation to be able to cooperate with companies, and to be able to enforce others to be more responsible to our environment. Finally, I want to show you the future project. We have Eden Silesia. It's our project of our university, and it's based on post-mining areas, and it was inspired in the UK. And you see the special shapes of buildings, which could be as living labs to observe climate, to simulate some ecological activities, or to prepare some special gardens, and must be connected with greenhouses. So we are proud that we have this project, but the opponents still evaluate this impact on our region. So now it's just on the paper. but we believe that will be a part of Karviná, and maybe you could visit in the future around 2030, maybe. And this project could also have an impact on our education. So we prepare some special study program on circular economy based on work in those greenhouses. So it was it is some vision in the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention and give me opportunity to share some notes and some information from the Czech Republic.
So thank you so much, Jarmila, for this insight from the Czech experiences. And we had an invitation or a proposition on the chat that you will put the link for the video in the chat, so people will see when they want the video that you wanted to share with us, and we could not see it because of the technicalities. A wonderful experience, very well complemented the experiences that Maria had previously presented to us. I don't know if anyone from the people in the meeting would like to add something or to comment or to say anything, is welcome to do so. So if not, I suggest that we continue with the presentation as they were included in the agenda. And you see that the following speaker is Veronica Lopotenko. Veronica, I did not see your face on my screen because I have a tight vision on Zoom now, but I'm sure that you are here with us and you are ready to speak. In your position of a person representing the stakeholders or the beneficiaries of our project. So please, Veronica, we are ready to follow your presentation.
Thank you very much, Michaela. I'm hearing slightly my voice. I don't know why. Maybe this is the setup of the meeting room. Just please confirm that you are seeing my screen.
We see your screen and
Great.
we hear you perfectly. So
Great.
feel free to start your presentation.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you particularly to the speaker. It was a quite interesting information about the Czech Republic, and I quickly checked the recycling rate here in Moldova, and unfortunately it's quite low. The recycling rate in Moldova is up to 10%, and I know that the efforts of the government and efforts of the donors now are to increase and to this recycling rate, and which is a quite important indicator for the green transition and the environmental benefits from the economic activity. Particularly the Green Transition Project, which is a project where I'm activating within the UNDP Moldova. It's also working towards this increasing of this rate, and actually the project has many intervention working with the legislation, with the policy development, with the businesses here in Moldova to take over the green practices, and also working with for capacitating the people from the environmental institutions to ensure the country's green transition, especially within the context of the EU accession of the Republic of Moldova. Indeed, the project is quite large and covers many aspects, as I listed only several of them. But today I would like to focus my presentation on the public opinion barometer of the green transition that was conducted here in Moldova with the support of the Green Transition Project. And I will present these findings of this public opinion barometer on the green transition in the Republic of Moldova. And the study provides valuable insights on how people perceive the environmental issue, what green practices they already adopt and implement, and which are the main barriers that slow down the transition toward a greener and more sustainable economy. The results of this study are particularly important in the context of Moldova's EU accession, as I previously told, where the green transition represents both the environmental and socio-economic priority. The content of this study today, actually, of the presentation, I will refer today on the methodological aspects, perception of the environmental and local issue, green behavior and motivation, green behavior that are already adopted by the population and motivation, circular practices, sustainable mobility, energy efficiency and resource use, eco-innovation and green solution, and indeed the main conclusion and recommendation that study is delivering to us. Regarding the methodological aspect, the survey was conducted between previous year between November and December and covered the national representative sample of 1,335 adults. The margin of error of this survey is plus minus 2.7%, and the sample reflects the structure. Sample structure reflects the population distribution. Yes, and we have a participation of 53 rural representative and 47 of urban, 55 women and 45 men, and a balanced distribution by socioeconomic level. And it's important to mention that 2/3 of respondents lives in houses on the land. This structure allows the analysis of the territorial and socio-demographic difference relevant to the green transition and to make specific conclusion on this. Here you have a slide with more information about the methodological aspects and how many people participated, the ages, the other structure of the participants within the of the respondents. First aspect that the study studied has examined was the perception of the environmental and local issues. The green transition starts, it's important to mention, with the reality at the local level. From the slide, you may see that people are generally satisfied with the basic services such as water supply and waste collection. We have here 80 and 75% of the satisfaction, and the local sanitation and green space and space maintenance, which is almost up to 70% of satisfaction of people. A quite moderate service with that has the services that has critical profile are roads and the sidewalks that has 42% of dissatisfaction, and a special conclusion of this survey was the dissatisfaction on sewage services is 49, which represent the service that that has the biggest share of this dissatisfaction, how it functions. It's important to mention that more dissatisfaction is on the people that lives in the rural area and less on these services for the urban area. And in fact, this aspect represents the reality here in Moldova. This shows that the people, especially this part of satisfaction of the services and concrete framework of the green transition, shows that people's perception of the green transition is strongly influenced by their everyday experience with the public infrastructure. So we have the quite high satisfaction on water supply and waste management, while the sewage is very, very low. Here you have a slide that presents much more figures than those that I have told you on the previous slide, and more concrete on the water supply, waste management, green places, and other. And you may see that the last one is sewage, that the dissatisfaction is 24%. It's in orange. Environmental concerns of the people is very high and relatively constant. Almost 70% of respondents are concerned about the environmental condition in Moldova, and even more express their concerns about the global problems. What motivates this concern? The stronger drivers are concerns about the future generation and concerns for the personal and family health. Economic arguments are also important, but less influential for the people. In fact, we can make the conclusion that this tells us that environmental communication should focus on the people, health, and future well-being rather than only on the economic indicators. So we can conclude that not only the year when the economic development was more important than the environmental passed probably away, and now the people cares very much on the environmental condition and cares about the future generation and their personal health condition. Level of the information of the people and how they perceive the local problem. More than half of the respondents considers themselves informed about the environmental issue. However, there is a significant educational gap. Only 1/3 of the people with low education level feel informed, compared to almost 3/4 among those with higher education. The most serious environmental problems identified by the citizens are the climate change, and an aspect that you touch upon, Michaela, at the initiation of this meeting. The another one is deforestation and lack of green spaces, and also the water pollution. These are issues with direct and visible impact on a daily life. Probably the water pollution was also an aspect that was quite important for us last year when we experienced pollution that came from the side of Ukraine. But this pollution was caused by the war that is ongoing on the territory of Ukraine, and impacts very much the Dniester River water quality. This being the main river that we are using for the drinking water in the Republic of Moldova. This also is a slide with more figures on the level of information and the diagnostic of the local problems. And the next is the ecological behavior and the motivation of the people to implement this behavior. The good news on the results of this survey is that many green behavior are already a part of the daily life of the people that participated in the survey. Most of the people save energy, save water, walk regularly, and dispose the waste in designated area. These are quite simple behaviors that they are present, but they are present on their everyday life. However, the participations declines with when behaviors require investment of infrastructure such as renewable energy installation or electrical vehicle. You may see on the screen that the level of the regular applied behavior as disposing of waste, walking, and rational use of water, of energy is more than 70%, while on the other part of the slide, the investment zone, it's with a quite low rate of participation. As I have mentioned, this is using of the electric cars and installing of the renewable energy. This doesn't mean that they are not important. People do not understand the importance of their presence in our life, but this requires heavy investments on to implement them. The next is motivation and barriers, particularly what pushes and what blocks the green behaviors of the people. You may see that again, health and protecting future generation are the strongest drivers of the motivation. The main barriers are not ideological. People generally support the green actions. The biggest obstacles of the green behavior are lack of infrastructures. Actually, this was mentioned also at the beginning of the presentation. Lack of the financial resources and lack of the information. In conclusion, this means that the challenge is not convincing people, but enabling them. Which are the circular practices that are applied by the people that have participated in this survey? We can observe from this slide that transition to the circular practices is underway, but it's not yet a mature one. The most common activity includes composting garden waste, composting kitchen waste, and recycling, energy recovery, and return of packages. Practices that depends on the external system as packaging, return scheme, or energy recovery remain less common for the people. You may see that the percentage is 38, 27, and 33, comparing with 50% of composting of garden and almost 50% composting of kitchen waste. Overall, we can conclude that overall circularity exists, but it's quite fragmented. And also what is important is that home-based solution, especially composting, and interesting findings is that circular practices are strongly influenced by where people live. You may see that rural residents and people living in houses are much more likely to compost, while the urban residents and people that lives in apartment have a fewer opportunities on these practices. This demonstrates that physical condition and infrastructure often matter more than the attitude. Recycling barriers and reuse logic. The biggest, we have studied the obstacles for the recycling, and the biggest obstacle to recycling is indeed the infrastructure. Nearly 60% of the people mentioned the lack of containers or collecting system. Very few respondents reject recycling itself. You may see that this is only 2%. There is a strong support for reuse repair, although many people believe that repairing have become quite expensive and and time-consuming procedure that might be applied nowadays. This indicates that significant potential for strengthening the circular economy through the better infrastructure and support services. The next slide is on the sustainable mobility that also have been studied during this survey. When examining the mobility patterns, walking remains the dominant mode of transport. For daily activities such as shopping, almost 2/3 of respondents are walking. Car use is more common for work and leisure activity, especially among middle ages and higher income groups. Public transport remains important, but a secondary type of the transport that is used by the people, and mobility patterns are closely linked to income, age, and local infrastructure. And when was studied what can drive people to change the way of moving and reduce car use, one important finding is that many people are not strongly dependent by the car, actually. When asked what could encourage them to use car less, respondents highlighted modern and reliable public transport, better pedestrian infrastructure, and cycling infrastructure. Financial penalties or restrictions were much less attractive for the people than those that are listed above. People want alternatives rather than punishment in the case of the mobility. When it comes to energy efficiency, respondents strongly support the simple energy-saving measure. LED lighting and unplugging unused devices received the highest approval from the people participated within the survey. Support decreases when measures require larger investments, such as home insulation or rainwater collection system. As in the previous cases, when the measures presume quite high investments, this is less attractive for the people, even they recognize that they are important. This again shows the importance of the affordability of the measures that are to be implemented. When it comes to eco-innovation and green solution that are here applied, we can tell that as a result of the survey, awareness of green technology is relatively high. Most people are familiar with the LED lighting, solar panels, electric public transport. Furthermore, green solutions are generally viewed as effective and sustainable for Moldova. This is broad public acceptance of the concept of the eco-innovation. And which are the investment intention and barrier. 7 out of 10 respondents express interest in investing in green solution. The most attractive options are renewable energy, eco-friendly products, and energy efficiency housing. However, high costs remain the main barriers for the all people for the majority of the people that participated in the survey. Many respondents also feel that public support mechanisms are insufficient for the people. The message is clear, is that people are interested, but financially accessible remains essential. Finance accessibility remains essential for them to implement these measures. And in conclusions, and the recommendation that this study has done is that the study made 3 main conclusions. First, there is a strong social foundation for green transition. Citizens understand environmental challenges and support green solution. The second one is the main barriers are practical rather than ideological, infrastructure, affordability, and access to information matter more than attitude. And the third, success policies must combine 4 elements: infrastructure, financing mechanism, simple and clear rules, and communication focused on direct benefits such as healthy savings and quality of life. In short, the Moldovans are willing to participate in the green transition, but they need practical opportunities and support to do so. What I also want to mention that this study conducted by the Green Transition and its conclusion are used further by the project and by the government to focus and to channel its investments and its activity to deliver the infrastructure to the people, and as an infrastructure project that are implemented by the Green Transition Project are the voluntary waste collection centers that are to be built within the project in 2 centers of the Republic of Moldova. This project is at its designing stage and are to be implemented starting with the autumn this year. This also will facilitate the collection of the waste in several regions of the Moldova and will help people to put in practice already the separate collection of the waste. And also, indeed, the project is supporting the government through its legal transposition aspects towards the EU accession, and many others, including infrastructure project, are implemented by the Green Transition Project within the UNDP with the support of the European Commission. But I believe that this can be a subject of another one presentation, because the intervention of the project is quite large and many aspects needs to be presented. I will be happy to present this in another one meeting.
So thank you, Veronica, for sharing the results of this research with us. Well, it's quite large, as I can see, of course.
Absolutely.
And for sure, you will be joining other events. If anyone would like to add something or to comment anything, or I don't know, just to ask a question. If not, we will continue in a circular way.
Pardon, Mihaela, I will also share the link with the entire study and conclusions, because indeed this is quite tight information that I have presented.
Yeah, this is very useful. I also saw that in chat, Briskene shared with us an article from Frontiers. This is a publishing house that Professor Dumanching and I are also cooperating with. So please feel free to share in chat what you consider important for everyone in the meeting. And as I have suggested, I propose to all of you to continue in a circular way, meaning that we have started with Maria, who is a lawyer, and we are almost at the end of our official presentation, meaning that we invite another lawyer to share his view on circularity with us. It's the time that Professor Ovidiu Ioan Dumitru takes the floor. I hope that you are here, Ovidiu. As I told to everybody before, I only see a narrow window of the meeting, so I don't know exactly who is still here or who is, I don't know, maybe not available for the moment. So if you hear us, please, Ovidiu.
Yes, I'm still here from the beginning.
Thank you so much. I know I noticed you at the beginning. I didn't notice at this moment that you are in the meeting. So as I said, we continue, or we are getting almost at the end of our presentations with Professor Ovidiu Ioan Dumitru from the Faculty of Law at the Academic University in Bucharest. University for Economic Academic Studies. What's the name exactly in
Officially is the Bucharest University of Economic Studies.
Wonderful. But
because yes, it's called academia, but it's a university. The name is just a tradition. We keep the name because it started as an academy.
Of course, this is why I'm confused. Nevertheless, you are the Dean of the Faculty of Law, so you satisfy the circular presentation that we have tried to achieve in this panel. So please.
Thank you, Mihaela. I shared my presentation. I don't know if it's you can actually see it.
For the moment, it is uploading. Yes, we see it now.
Okay. So as our colleague, Professor Mihaela Tofan mentioned, I'm a dean. I'm also a member of an working group. This is a first reason, let's say, of being here. But second is that I have some experience in construction field and also in construction law. As a lawyer, I'm not an exercising lawyer, meaning that I'm suspending for the bar because I'm a dean and because I have my time allocated to more scientific and teaching activities. But also I've been for a while the chairman of the Romanian Society of Construction Law, then a member of the board of the European Society of Construction Law. Now in both I'm just a humble member, and I'm trying to help my friends and colleagues there who are in the leadership to promote strong values. And among those values are also the ones connected to circular economy, because construction field is one of the areas which brings lots of from demolishing or even from building, from producing materials, a lot of materials which are not recycled. And at EU level, we established, especially lately, strong milestones and objectives in trying to recycle construction materials, trying to reuse the construction materials. And Romania, because today I'll try to, in the first part, to have a short overview, because I'm pretty sure most of you know the piece of legislation you have at European level, but also a proposal that we have in Romania to somehow summarize and centralize the already existing legislation under one umbrella, which is called the Administrative Code. So the presentation today is going to be split in two: one related to the existing proposals or the existing legislation we have in Europe, and a proposal we have in Romania that we hope will clarify some of the aspects which are connected to recycling construction materials. Now, first issue to address is, of course, the problem. And I mentioned earlier that construction field is one of the ones dealing a lot with environment protection and also with heavy materials which are not coming from recycling activity. So the sector's waste footprint, the linear to circular SWIFT, and what the waste hierarchy actually demands are issues to be addressed and problems to be solved. Well, at EU level, we have different directives and even regulations on those aspects, on waste law, on product law, and lately, and this is the one I consider that might actually change in time, fundamentally the field information instruments that may actually make circularity eligible. In order to get there, of course, we need to see exactly which is the cycle that we are discussing about, cycle in construction. And I'm pretty sure you know we cannot actually start building something without a permit. That permit needs a design. So immediately we have a technical design after, let's say, a proposal which was permitted by the state. And at the end, we have either issues of construction or issues of deconstruction. So the state can act on this life cycle in order to influence positively the use of materials. Now, as I said, 37% of all waste generated in EU is actually construction and demolition waste, which is the single largest stream by weight. Now, clearly, we speak about materials which are, from the weight point of view, are considerable. We have a EU circular material use rate of 12%. Meaning that most of the resources are still extracted new, not cycled back. And this is one of the objectives of the European Union to be attained. Still, we have 83% estimated technical potential for recycling and reuse. And in one of the actives we have, European Union established 70% the minimum recovery target for non-hazardous construction and demolition waste. And we are trying, each country, of course, with less or more experience in the field, to implement the measures in order to get there to 70%. But what actually means circular, at least in construction, and what do we have actually today? Which are the clear objectives and which are the least preferred ones? If we get to least preferable, and some of the countries still the situation, we speak about disposing the goods in a way that we protect environment. So landfill or incineration without recovery, which is the last resort, is the, let's say, the minimum that you can actually get, the least preferred in this case. Other recoveries like backfiling, low-grade aggregate, energy recovery, downcycling is actually a second, let's say, stage of this goal that we want. Recycling, meaning that reprocess materials into new products, is something which is happening, especially with some of the materials. But we want more. We want actually to have reuse, so preparation for reuse, to recover whole components for the actual use, which is the objectives, still not happening in most of the states of state members. And in the future, in this, the highest, most wanted, let's say, objective is build less, build longer, and design somehow the out of waste at source. And this comes by prevention. So somehow, if we actually try to form a line and to circle it in a loop, we'll see that yes, we start with design, of course, pre-design and permit, then design, which is the technical design, exploring and using even the BIM as a modeling tool, then construction. Then in construction process use and renovate here, and in the next one in deconstruction, in case of demolishing, in case of refurnishing, but clearly phases in which we detach materials from the building, and then end with reuse and recovery of those. Well, this would be actually a loop, and we go again to permits in the idea of, and at EU level, and also, of course, in the national legislations, we try as objectives to connect as much as possible in order to get from the most least ones, meaning just to protect the environment and to destroy the materials without affecting too much environment, to actually go to permit, meaning by issuing the permit, to know exactly which is the life cycle of the materials and to know exactly that they are going to re-enter the construction field. So that'd be actually a closing of the loop in the construction sector. And if we go and analyze this loop in European legislation, you'll see that we have different overlapping instruments, different regulations and directives, the acts of the European Union, which are guiding the legislation and, of course, the construction activity towards finalizing or succeeding in having this loop, this circle. We have a circular economy action plan under the umbrella of European Green Deal, which is the one setting up the built environment circularity ambition and steering the strategy for a sustainable built environment. Over there, we have, of course, the strategies, the main objectives European Union has in this idea. And we have different piece of legislation like the Construction Products Regulation from 2024. This is the latest form because we have one which was late anyway in this period implemented in different member states. Some of them, like Romania, it was actually very hard to get from the communist style legislation in materials in construction into this one. So the form from 2011 was the one which step by step was put in force in construction field in Romania. And I'll present you later which are the main acts in Romania that were used or modifying those in adaptation to the regulation. Actually, you succeeded in fulfilling this. Of course, I speak mostly about the performance declaration, the conformity declaration. So the use of these two instruments, depending on the standards, of course, we are talking about materials which might be Europeanized in the idea that they have a European standard, so they can be used in any territory, or specific standards in construction which are specific to certain climate, earthquake movement, or other aspects which influence the impossibility to get to a European standard. Well, those two acts were actually in practice step by step bringing the quality of materials at certain level, but the regulation was the main legal instrument, normative instrument at European level. The new regulation comes with something which is called digital product passport requirements. So now we try to get, by using digital tools, to get to a higher level than the one we got through the application of the regulation from 2011. On the waste, because this is in relation to materials, on the waste, of course, we have the main directive, the Waste Framework Directive from 2008, which is defining the waste hierarchy, and as I said at the beginning, is the one establishing the 70% recovery target, and of course promoting selective demolition. What we have now, at least in Romania, maybe in the Western countries is already happening, but in Romania is at the beginning. So we have the Romanian authorities trying to get all the sites to have a selective demolition or a selective selection of waste coming from construction during the construction phase. But next to this, which is the main directive, we have the eco design for sustainable products regulation. We have the energy performance of buildings directive, which nowadays, with all the funds used or anyway spent by Europe on this, we have this possibility to increase and have a loop absorption by 2035, and proposed, like in other fields we propose, like a sales sector, others, we have also proposed a Circular Economy Act signaled by the Commission, expected to convert non-binding protocols that we have now into binding obligations on secondary material markets. And this of course, are the main acts, normative acts of European ones in the field. They are defining, establishing objectives, and just to clarify some of the definitions there. For instance, circular economy is seen in this proposed Circular Economy Act as being a model that keeps materials, components, and buildings in productive use and designs out waste. The opposite of linear take, make, dispose. This is provided in the Circular Economy Action Plan, part of the Green Deal. Waste error hit, which I mentioned at the beginning, and we have it defined by Directive 98 from 2008, the Waste Framework Directive, is mentioned as legally binding order of priority for handling waste, prevention, preparing for reuse, recycling, other recovery, then disposal. So this range, and I said prevention is the most wanted one. End of waste, the point at which a recovered material legally ceases to be waste and may be placed in the market as a product once set criteria are met. In the same directive, Article 6, and it's one of the goals that we need to attain, as I said earlier. Selective demolition, term that I mentioned also earlier, in the same Waste Framework Directive in Article 11, means dismantling that separates hazardous substances and material streams at source, enabling high-grade recovery as opposed to mixed demolition. And the tool that we hope in the future will help us get to this cycle and this loop is the digital product passport, which is provided both by the regulation on construction materials and the regulation on econ design and sustainable products, which means machine-readable record reached via QR or data metrics carrier of a product composition, performance, and reuse recycling data. Clearly isn't very easy now to think about this, but we at this level of digitalization of European Union, I think we can see this happening in the near future. We have used a lot the CE. We are going to use in the future the CE. We have used a lot, as I said, the performance and conformity declarations as papers. Now we end with this paper era and checks in the technical registers, and we hope to get to an institute to check procedures by having this passport on all the products in construction. Now, clearly, we need, next to the legislative tools, projects, programs by which to make steps. As you know, next to legislation, next to law, we have also soft law and also other instruments in order to fulfill the objectives. And I would actually mention the European Network for Digital Building Permits, which is building a common machine-readable permit process across jurisdictions. I'm going to mention also, as I said in the second part of the presentation, the Romanian code, administrative code, and that code is having provisions on this, of course, at national level. And this is connected also to the possibility to have the digitalized images of the buildings. And this is happening through the use of GIS models and building information modeling. Nowadays, in different states, we have at European level as objectives, but we have also different states which, by public procurement requirements or by administrative requirements in obtaining the permits, have imposed designers and builders to use BIM in order to be able to get the permit and also to finalize the works and to register the digital model of that building and everything connected to location in the land office. Of course, this raises questions of private life, raises questions, of course, of security and others, because the data which the two models are offering are very complex and, of course, very specialized. So in the hands of, in the wrong hands, may actually affect even constitutional rights of the citizens. But these are to be solved in construction, at least in the life of the building. The use of BIM, the use of GIS for sure are useful, and this is the way actually we can get to different objectives, to fulfill different objectives. And the permit, you notice anyway, start with the permit as a gatekeeper, in the idea that we try to move what nowadays is happening during checks, during payments, during turnover, so during different stages of construction, to move that ahead. So somehow, in order to get to the and have a construction of the loop and finalize the loop, is actually to get all this data at the beginning. So embedding material declarations, audits, reuse criteria into the application makes circularity a condition for approval. So somehow we'll have a pressure on the developers, on the citizens even, and especially of the designers and builders and other specialists involved, to bring the model before actually getting the permit, and then just following the steps easily. And that's, again, another objective opinion has. By that, we try somehow to get through the digital, to get to green, to these security requirements in a point of approval, and of course try somehow to get the local authority involved. How actually we can do that? By giving materials a memory. So we talk about this passport of materials, because we have a structure of records of those materials used in the construction, the ones which were proposed, then approved, and of course then used in the construction of a building. By that you can actually see the carbon footprint, the durability, the reusability, and what we're talking more today about the recyclability travel with that product. And this is the passport which is provided by the European legislation. Of course, for the other stage of design assembly of that, of course, you have reversible connections and documented assemblies turn a building into a future material bank rather than future mixed rubble. The idea of recycling everything, and that moment, demolition actually becomes harvesting. Use of this kind of materials during the construction becomes actually harvesting. So pre-demolition and pre-innovation audits are needed, and we can, for instance, see in France the law of having this diagnosis from 2023 for large projects. We have an inventory of products, equipment, materials, and waste leaving the site, prioritizing like this the reuse of over the recycling. Selective demolition, an audit-led selective demolition can cut waste by 30 to 50%, and help reuse recycling almost to 90% for targeted materials. And we have different models at your level, meaning that we have jurisdictions like France, for instance, with the anti-waste law that I mentioned earlier. and this diagnosis, which is a statutory mandatory type of act, and which imposes pre-operation materials inventory, prioritizing like this the reuse. Netherlands, for instance, we have the Environmental Management Act with the target in 2050. Is more platform and market-led legislative act than statutory one, and the connection with the security is clearly the one with the use and registration of secondary material markets. We have also voluntary commitment. Now, the German-Austrian style is based on this, more on standards, more on private action, and less on regulatory matter of the state. So it's a more self-regulation industry compared to France, for instance, or Romania or others which have these models. And the idea is to get to a very high recovery, but largely backfiling, not closed loop. In Romania, as I said, we follow a bit the French model, like many others. Nowadays, we talk a lot about this CATUC, we say, anyway, it's from Romanian, so administrative code, which is a proposal of 2023. Due to political instability, couldn't actually get to an approval of the parliament. To have pros and cons is one of the objectives that we have nowadays in connection to the use of European funds. So somehow we have to get to finalization of the adoption procedure, but maybe you know, maybe don't know, we still are struggling to have a government. So nowadays is not a debate, but the industry, the construction industry, designers, builders, other experts involved are pushing. Some of them coming with amendments, others just wanting the form which is under scrutiny now to be adopted. So this idea, this code, it's offering or is transferring now everything digital. We speak about digital book of the building, a life cycle code to decommissioning. So somehow the objectives we can see in the directives, they are actually fulfilled by this. This code that I mentioned, and the name comes from this, so it's a code which is not strictly to construction, but also to urbanism and the way we plan buildings. Is the most ambitious reform of Romanian construction administration from 1991. It's a test, of course, if we can actually codify the building cycle administrative race into a circular sector that it needs. I won't give you the numbers. I mentioned earlier, 1991 is the first recodification in the field. But in Romania, we don't have a code necessarily. We have pieces of legislation connected with systematic interpretation. So, for instance, we have authorization of works, which are pointing out Law 10 from 1995, which is the one on quality in construction. It is the main one, which might actually relate to reuse of materials, and is the one amended many times. Of course, also after the entry into force of regulation on construction materials. So Law 50 is the backbone of urbanism. Now, so we speak about permits here, we speak about approvals, we speak about heritage and others. Of course, when you speak about heritage, you have other pieces of legislation connected to the protection of the heritage and so on. So this is the way we are actually applying now in this field. And we have a newer, if I can say this, but it's not that new, law 350 on 2001 is the one on planning. And here it's how we have designed the hierarchy of these plans. So the general plan of a city, the zonal plan, and the tile or anyway specialized plan of different parcel level local regulations. And here, depending on the situations and also connecting to other pieces of legislation like the protection of heritage, we have certain authorities being the ones empowered to issue the permits, approvals permits. What can you say about this code? It has 2 books. So first book is on more on urbanism, so planning and urbanism. It's around the 2 pieces of legislation I mentioned earlier. The second is on construction, on the life cycle oriented construction life. So connected more to our discussion today is this the second book, which is actually pointing out the life of the construction from definitions. We have different classes. Nowadays we have different classes of buildings which are reshaped and renumbered, but the number of classes are remaining the same, but we are reconfiguring them. Then we have design and verification, which is changing a bit in the idea that we entitled them more actually the feasibility study and the pre-design. It's now empower more than design and verification. Insurance duties, which till now were focused on workers and on the liability of the designer. Then of course execution, and what's new and we collect from other pieces of legislation, national, and of course we try to fulfill the objectives in the directives are the use and post-utilization, the decommissioning. As an act, we consolidate 17 normative acts and creates, and this will be an issue to address in actually applying this code, 42 territorial agencies which will actually get all the information centralized and will be the ones checking that information. As I said, we have different actors coming with proposal amendments. We have at this moment more than 1,000 amendments on this. As I mentioned earlier, we have some approval sequence in the code. Beginning with certificate of urbanism, was the one issuing on the request of the owners or the investors, issuing the possibility to build. Then of course that certificate is pointing out the needed approvals from different authorities or different utility suppliers. After that, you get technical verification. And just after the technical verification of the design, we have the construction authorization, the permit. Then we have different phases, which are to be checked by the specialized personnel, but also by the state, because in Romania have, based on from law 10/95, we have an authority, an inspectorate on checking the quality in construction, and in the end we have the turnover, the reception of the works. As I said, we have 4 structural shifts. We have this classes of buildings, and as I said, we keep the number, so we have 4. Just like we had now, we had it on letters, A, B, C, D, the most important being A, and then with D, usually for small buildings, residential ones, and increasing the importance based on being public, having gatherings there, or having a certain scope, a certain role in administrative or anyway security or others, and being a monument, so protection of heritage or others. So we increased, of course, this this importance based from D to A. Now we go with CC1, CC4 in the idea that we replace proportionality with binary logic. So we have a verification depth. We have designer qualifications, insurance and state oversight. So we try somehow, based on the experience we had from 91 till now, to have a better placement in one category or another, and by placing a building in a certain category to increase the checkups and of course the minimum criteria of the ones involved, and of course of the building itself, as materials, as protection of the building and the surroundings, and so on. I have to tell you that in my experience in construction, one of the biggest issues was actually to identify in a design, because it isn't required by law to point out that it's A or B or C. Somewhere the architect has to design, and based on that, of course, all the rules on building that on building up are coming, and raise some issues. It's B or C, yeah, over there always about, because A are clear enough, are the ones with the highest importance. Now, other things to be changed over there have a compliance responsibility shift towards the certified designers for CC3 and CC4, a simplified notification regime, which eases the small rural dwellings in the idea of depressuring somehow the bureaucratization which exists now even for those kind of buildings. And in relation to sanctions, we have an absolute nullity for the documentation that legalizes unauthorized works. This is unclear. We have some litigation in Romania on buildings which were actually raised, were actually finalized without having the permit, or the permit was not actually respected. And for a while we had this idea of offering legality for those buildings, then we refused. Well, now we have a clear mention in the codes that we have absolute nullity for all these kind of situations, and the judicial review of normative acts is limited to legality. Now here we may have some unconstitutionality issues and challenges. I won't go too much with the categories and others, but I will point out that just like in European legislation, the Romanian legislator, by this initiative, this proposal, tries to build up a digital dossier for that building. So this Carte Tehnică, we call it in Romania, I left it like this, which we are using all the time, and goes together is a birth certificate, but also living certificate of that building. In Romania, we didn't actually pay too much attention to this. Became lately, because of litigation, because some quality issues, some transfer ownership issues, and so on and so on. So we try to impose it, and we try to make the builders, the real estate developers, conscionable about the use of this building dossier, building register, and the idea and the importance of it in time, because we have a long time of a building. We went through different provisions in our legislation, and we, for instance, imposed impossibility to transfer a house without having this. But how precise it is, how accessible it is, how compliable it is to the requirements of that specific building, for instance, of a certain category. That isn't well checked, and it's just a formal criteria to be checked. Well, this code comes and tries to digitalize, and by that, phase by phase, before the end of the construction, to have all data connected to the building, even related to the use of materials, somehow digitalized. So in all these stages, from authorization to use, we try by coming to the permit, by having that loop closed, to actually ask all that information from the beginning. Without entering more in this, with just pointing out the pros and cons of this normative act. Clearly, codification, this kind of codification eliminates cross-statutory contradictions and unifies terminology. It's something which in Romania we are still struggling. Not only that we have different types of normative acts, some connected to urbanism, others to construction, others to heritage protection, others to quality of materials, and many others, but also to have an overview of all of those together, even if it's not going to gather everything there. For instance, heritage protection for sure needs its own code. Consequence, class proportionality aligning with international practice, stronger professional weight, and here is something that I always promoted in the idea of certifying professionals. We had the tendency in Romania, especially in heritage, protection of heritage, to have companies, legal persons, in idea of builders being certified. Well, clearly, the one that you can check as knowledge and as reputation is, of course, the natural person acting, doesn't matter how, through a natural person merchant or through a company, doesn't matter how, but the person is the one that you check as a professional. And as I mentioned earlier in this Katuk, in this code, we adapt the importance and the involvement of certified professionals depending on the importance of the building and the risk that we assess for each class. Strict nullity sanctions close the a posteriori legalization loophole. That's an issue that, again, we had in Romania for many years. Life cycle orientation regulated through use, renovation, and decommissioning is the one that we, anyway, want to address the most in the use of materials. Now, on this proposal, we have some issues, as I said earlier, I'm just checking the messages because I suppose I have to end, and I was just checking those if are related to this or just questions.
It would be a good idea to get
I'll try to do that. So next to the amendments, next to all these agencies to be created, this BIM anyway, and the use of BIM, which is starting now to be used in different public procurement as conditions coming from authorities, might be actually the key in getting to life cycle orientation. So this risk over there, but not having anyway a clear automated process might be problematic. But the use of BIM might help us to get to this end in the loophole, from permit to build to operate, audit, recover, and reuse of materials. So in order to have this loophole point, from my point of view, we need to have a permit data gate, which is an objective European Union, to have this machine readable material declaration circularity of the materials, to harmonize the pre-demolition audits, so to adopt a common EU audit template, to standardize the end of use, so clear, harmonized criteria and green public procurement to pull secondary materials into demand, to mandate interval passports, and I mentioned a lot that digital passport of materials, to split recovery targets, and to give it, of course, a binding force, because just objectives in the agenda of European Union is not sufficient. We need to go and have next steps on this. So convert all those protocols and guidance into enforceable obligations via the Security Economy Act, which is the proposed European Union has. And I end here. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, which closed the loop in the end in terms of bringing the discussion to the point where we started. And I was also right, and Briskene, I'm sure that you understand me now. When you offered to contribute to the webinar, I told you that I fear the time will not be sufficient for all the speakers.
Yeah.
But that this does not mean that your contribution will be welcome for another event. And of course, we keep to the agenda, meaning that you are invited now to summarize in a way or to express your ideas about all the presentations, just to fulfill the position of the discussant of today's webinar. So please.
Yeah. Thank you. So I have a wrap up, yes, but just a little question for the presenters. I said 5 minutes, and I'll take into I'll stay into that. So what strikes me is that all presentations remind us that circularity is not just simply about new technologies and waste management solutions, but it's fundamentally about people, as we saw in the first presentations, but also institutions and capacity to rethink existing systems. And the Czech experience that we listen reminds us that countries do not start the circular transition from the same point. You know, that is, this particularity is relevant for Albania, for the Western Balkans, and for Eastern Europe, that they have been dealing with post-socialist institutional legacies, making this Czech experience also especially valuable. So the presentation of Professor Lopoteca, it was interesting that the public opinion barometer, because we have also Western Balkans public opinion barometer, and it reminded me that we still have a lot of collaborations inside our COST actions, and comparison between the countries would be very interesting. I was checking on the data on Western Balkan public barometer, and I saw that people are more concerned to us in the Western Balkans, are more concerned on air pollution, but going on biodiversity and waste management, the data are not so promising. But even if I have to highlight, I don't know if you are going on the news right now, but in Albania is happening just these days. It's 2 weeks, something like that, the Flamingo Revolution. It's not directly about circular economy. It's about biodiversity destruction, but I think that what is happening in Albania just right now, that has taken in the international echo and will be reflected also on the respective data in the future. So the presentation collectively suggests that successful circular transition require alignment between citizens, skill systems, businesses, legal frameworks, and public policy. Progress is just not only one of these dimensions. It's unlikely to be insufficient. So I was hearing very carefully to the presentation of Professor Dumitru, because this construction issue is a problem, a real problem to us right now, and it's the main reason of this Flamingo revolution that is happening. So this is this administrative reform in construction, perhaps all these overlapping instruments that are there in EU, but also in the Western Balkans and also in Albania, may become critical when coming in the meso or in the micro level. Just a remark of that. And I have just a question for all presenters. We have heard much about policy design, skills, and institutional reforms. How do we ensure that vulnerable groups like consumers and smaller enterprise, because 90% of each economy are SMEs. So how we ensure that these vulnerable groups are not left behind by the circular transition? A question for any one of the presenters or anyone of who is present right now.
So I don't know if Veronica or Ovidiu would like to address with the...
Now, I would try. Now, I think we have to separate the list on construction. Let's. I'll keep it there because recycling is not only about construction, but because I mentioned this. Clear on consumers. I think when we involve digitalization and reuse of materials, one of the objectives is actually the protection of consumers, because next to recycling materials, we're in the process of recycling materials, we take into account protection of the environment, we take into account protection of consumers. So these objectives, which are now in the plan, let's say, European Union tries to fulfill those. I'm pretty sure. I ensure you that take into account this. Now on the SMEs. Or there might be a bigger issue, or let's say harder to fulfill through legislation and more through different projects which exist otherwise, in promoting through funding or promoting through state aid and others the SMEs in these fields. So to have both legislative but also funding in promoting SMEs in this field, which exists now in environment protection and energy and the efficiency, or getting efficient in energy of buildings. So it exists, meaning that the funding is allocated mainly to SMEs. Other tools I don't see, but otherwise, as a big idea for the other stakeholders, I think the objective is took into account also their interests.
Yeah, thank you all for participating into this webinar, both speakers and people just attending and hearing the discussion. I'm sure that the project will offer us many other occasions to engage into productive discussions and to participate in such events. Please feel free to connect to every channel that ECO4ALL has for disseminating events and activities. And please reach out in order to be able to include you in any of these activities that are supposed to bring us together and help us achieve the results of the project ECO4ALL. So thank you all and have a wonderful afternoon, and keep in touch for the project outcomes. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.